Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 824, Richard here, and we've got lots to talk about. Emojigate, we'll be talking about people getting upset with emojis in Windows 11, really. I'm sure Richard will be talking notches on MacBooks. We'll be talking about smart lighting with the Christmas project I'm going to be working on, and lots more. So let's get straight to Richard. Richard, good evening.
Good evening.
And just us tonight. Gary's not well today, so hopefully Gary will be better, feeling better, be able to join us next week.
Oh, get well soon, Gary.
Yes, and you're back in the country as well after a trip away last week.
I am. I actually left the country on a long-haul flight for an event. It was very exciting. No problems at all. It was very, very smooth and easy. Had no issues, I have to say. PCR tested, masks and things, and no problems at all. Heathrow Airport was fine. Destination was fine. It was almost like old times, apart from wearing the mask, which is good because it meant you could see the face I was pulling when the airplane food turned up.
Yeah, that's right. So, how do you eat your airplane food with a mask on then?
Well, the way you do it is you can remove the mask when you're eating or drinking on the aircraft. So there were a few people on the plane who ordered themselves a gin at the start of the flight and then left it on their table for the whole flight, which I thought was a little bit naughty.
Yeah, there's always some people that just want to be clever, don't they, and get around it.
the rules. But apart from that, no, it was fine. It was, felt very safe and it was, I had no problem at all, so great.
Yeah, very good. Well, we've got lots of things to talk about this week as well. We've got some insider news, some I want to talk notches, Windows 11, and we mentioned a little bit about a little Christmas light project which I'm going to be starting off today. So let's start with of course the big controversy, the big news, the big controversy of last week, Emojigate.
Oh yeah, yes, the culling of the emojis. I mean, what do you make of that, Ian?
Well, so for anybody who hasn't seen this, last week's build, last week's dev channel build we had on where it was Thursday, was released, and Microsoft said this is build 22478 for the dev channel, and Microsoft said it contains new emojis, and I thought, well, that's nice. There's nothing controversial about new emojis, is there? And apparently,
how wrong you were.
Yeah, apparently these were the emojis that they announced in the summer. But yeah, how wrong we were. So they are new fluent emojis, but people got very upset because they weren't the 3D versions that were shown off in a PR slide at some point during the summer. And people were I did see some guy tweet who's like, I can't believe I've waited all this time and it's not coming. This is the worst thing ever to happen to Windows since Windows 98. Wow, things are really...
Yeah, perhaps a little bit extreme, although, I mean, haven't they also packed out a bunch of the NinjaCat ones? Have they gone too? I can't remember.
Yes, they have actually. I was going to ask you about this as well. So the NinjaCat, to be honest, I was never that keen on. It was kind of the peak, I don't know what the way I should phrase it, but the web.
That's fine. Call it peaked on.
Yeah. So the Windows Insider program has been through different stages. The initial side was very technical with Gable, and I think that's probably when people like us probably most enjoyed the sort of the interaction with the team, because it was all totally technical, very raw data, and then when Gabe was replaced with Donna, Gabe went on to do other new pastures. It became a bit more fluffy, and NinjaCats and things like that.
Yeah. I would say perhaps it became a bit more inclusive as the team looked to kind of, extend its reach to people who perhaps weren't hardcore techies, to kind of get more people involved. So hence the NinjaCat, the Tacker hats, and all those things, which enraged a lot of people as well.
Yeah, but then in the last, since Donna moved on to different departments at Microsoft, different roles at Microsoft, that NinjaCat thing has been de-emphasized quite a bit.
Yes.
As in Windows 10, the NinjaCat was actually there in Windows Update, but that's actually still there, to be fair, I suppose, but it's moved a little bit around. But anyway,
I mean, and you still see it on the on the insider program logos and things and branding in Windows Update. So it's still there. It's just that it's being gradually de-emphasized. Yeah,
but you're right though. These the special Ninja Cat emojis have been removed from Windows 11. Whether they'll come back or not, but this controversy was I completely missed it at first because I did my build video and showed off the new emojis and never even thought about it. It wasn't until like a few hours I was reading about people who were upset about it and the Emojigate and everything else. But I suppose to me, I don't care. I'm not really that much care about emojis, and 2D or 3D don't make a huge amount of difference to me. And if they hadn't changed them, I wouldn't have noticed. But I suppose this does point to one of the things that Microsoft do have a tendency to do is to show off nice things in promotional videos, like updated apps and things like that, and then don't ship them with the shipping, when the product ships. So
I guess so. I mean, but hasn't Clippy come back though?
Yes, well, the paperclip emoji is like Clippy now.
So there is that at least. Yeah.
So there is that.
You're quite right. I mean, even with Windows 11, we're having a situation where, we got quite used to it with Windows 10, where they show off things and they wouldn't happen. Like, Sets springs effortlessly to mind in terms of function that was shown off and looked very exciting, and then appeared and then gradually disappeared again when they realized they couldn't make it work. But even with Windows 11, we've had the Android app thing, which again, I don't know about you, but when I saw it announced months ago, I assumed it would be a shipping product. Of course, it's not there yet. It's coming. So yeah, I do wish that they wouldn't show these flashy things and then not to do with them.
Yeah, when I remember back in the Windows 10 day, there was a couple of images went round with Windows 10 probably about 2 years ago when they started to enhance the start menu slightly or change the translucency of icons, wasn't it? And it was, this image was buzzing around for quite some time before they actually got round to doing it. I don't think it ever really came off, exactly. So yeah, they have shot themselves in the foot occasionally showing things off. So that this is what unfortunately, what I think the negative this has on now is that they just get even more cautious about showing things that aren't done now. So every time this happens, I get a feeling like it's just another reason for them not to preview things.
Yeah, possibly. Although I have to say the whole Ninja Cat thing is perhaps a little bit of a kick to the insider program. I mean all of the insiders, because we've had the situation, haven't we, where they relaxed the Windows 11 hardware requirements for Windows insiders, and now they're back loud and proud, and certainly getting stricter. Although there are, as we know, workarounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a shame. One of those things.
But that was the exciting thing about this build. Although there was an under hood change, the bit of text, but no details about this update stack packages. Have you seen that?
No, go on.
So it mentioned in the release notes of this build is that they are testing the update stack package that will enable them to deliver features outside of the regular Windows updates. And I'm sure I've heard this before, but these stack packages are a way of deploying features, they're saying, outside.
Just to clarify, is this build 22478?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's only a couple of paragraphs in the release notes about it. It says the upgrade stack packages will help ensure your PC has the highest likelihood of successfully installing new updates with the best and least disruptive experience available. So they're only testing it with a small set of testers at the moment, but I guess it's some way of delivering updates in the future, which is probably quite significant, but there's not really details on it.
Is this something to do with the Windows 11 patch thing they've been talking about, whether they're planning to deliver patches differently now?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, because that looks like a pretty good idea in that because if you're an administrator, it is a nightmare having to keep fleets up. Well, as you know, having to sort of have fleets updated, whereas the new method appears to be a lot more lightweight and hopefully more reliable as well. So instead of doing full-on deltas and things, it seems to be much more in terms of being able to roll forward and roll back as well. So keeping things stable, and if it goes wrong, it can be pulled back easily as well. So I wonder if it's to do with that.
Yeah, it could well be. I suspect it'll be quite significant in the future, but it's kind of just a couple of paragraphs mentioned on it at the moment. But other than that, there weren't very many changes with this build. These builds are, I'm guessing we're not seeing a huge amount of changes until we get Android. I'm fingers crossed we'll get Android support before the end of the year for the dev channel.
I would imagine we'll probably see something around Ignite, because Ignite is coming up in November, so I would think that'll be the time where they want to start to show off stuff to get developers engaged and excited. Yeah.
So it wasn't very exciting build really, that one, but we also got the first update to Windows 11, the release version, last week as well. I think it was beginning of last week, which had a very minor change in it. But we also got, which is probably more interesting, was a fairly big change. So 22000 is the build. .258 was the one that's rolled out to regular Windows 11 machines.
Yep.
But then also last week we got the build 282.282, which
and that went out to the beta and the release preview channels, which and that's it looks like there's a colossal amount of figures in that build, including, most importantly, well, for many people, is the infamous AMD L3 caching issue, which has caused, I mean, I know of a few people who've had a lot of problems with this, and for those who aren't aware of it, Windows 11 shipped with, I mean, would you call it a bug, or just, I guess it's a bug, I suppose, but there was an issue with that there was a caching issue, or is a caching issue with Windows 11 with certain AMD chips under certain workloads, notably a lot of pretty recent games that could really hit performance. And I mean, I've seen people reporting performance hits of 15-20% worse, which is pretty bad, if I'm honest. And it looks like it may have been known about to insiders for some time as well, but was shipped with this problem. And it's caused a lot of grief. And it looks like it's been fixed. I mean, I've not actually tested this yet on AMD systems. Not quite sure it has been fixed, but they say they have fixed it, and that'll be great. But it's one of those things. Looking at the sheer list of fixes here, and there are an awful lot in this build, particularly around crashes and things. It's kind of yet more reason to say, you know what, maybe you should hang on fire on Windows 11 just for a few months, let things stabilize, which is, I think, prudent anyway. So if you're hanging fire, perhaps hang fire a little bit longer, just until it's settled down, if you can upgrade, and then go for it, because there are a lot of fixes here, which indicates, I guess, they had a few issues. I mean, they've also got problems, haven't they, with, I think, printing and other bits and pieces too. So hopefully all these things will get fixed in the next few weeks or months, and then we'll be good to go.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I'd say this Windows 11 release is probably, in terms of actual upgrade issues, has been pretty quiet, hasn't it? We've not had like the old infamous data wipe from a few years ago, 2018. So I think it's so. But I guess they've not had a huge amount of people doing the Windows update upgrades, because. Unlike
the infamous 1809 October 2018 update, which is the one that wiped the data, Microsoft has again, I think, been very, very cautious with this. So it's unlikely to come down automatically. You can search for it and put it on yourself. And of course, there is the issue of supported hardware as well, in that you can run it on sort of Intel 7th gen and earlier chips and things, and it can be made to work. But Microsoft have been quite clear that it's not going to be, updates and things may not work going forwards. As I see, you've got on the screen there. So I think all these things mean it's having a relatively slow rollout, which I think is the correct and prudent thing to do.
Yeah. So, and talking about this unsupported, in fact, Microsoft have an article themselves on how to install it on an unsupported machine, which is quite interesting. But so I gave this a try myself, and I did see, this is the screen that I captured there. So it basically involves using an ISO, using the media creation tool, or just downloading the ISO and doing an in-place upgrade. But when you get partway through upgrade, you get this screen here, which I got from my Surface Pro 4, which is an unsupported device. It's got the TPM, but it hasn't got the processor requirements. So following Microsoft's guide, I did the registry key change, which was just, in fact, on my Surface Pro 4, it was already enabled. This, I didn't have to add the key; it was already there, set up. So I'm not quite sure how that'd be. Maybe because it'd been on the Insider program on release preview at some point, or beta.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah. So I ran this through, and this worked fine. My Surface Pro 4 upgraded fine, and I rolled it back because I want to keep a Windows 10 machine for things at the moment as well. So, but this method works. So I downloaded the ISO from the Media Creation tool, checked the registry, ran the update through. It gave me this option here about not being supported, and then I went through. Now, what I was curious to find out was Microsoft say you'll be unsupported, and it said you won't be entitled to receive updates. And I wondered what that actually means, or meant, as in. Yeah. There's two types of updates we get. There's big build updates, and once a year, and then we've got all these monthly updates and servicing updates. So from the experience of just testing things last week, because we got that update to the release build and the dev and the beta and release preview channels last week, all the devices I had that were unsupported received those updates. Yeah. So my theory is that you'll continue to receive those updates until there's a new major build release. So 22H2 next year, perhaps the one that includes the Android support. When you try and do that, it'll say your machine doesn't meet the minimum specs, and you can't install it. But until that point, I think you'll get the monthly patches and everything else. So I think you'll be good to go on that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I think it'll probably be. I mean. It may not be a major build that trips it. Something that there'll be something that comes down at some point which will cause your PC to have an issue. That could be a major build. It could even be a patch Tuesday update. And I mean, my reading of it is that Microsoft simply won't support. It's going to say this might work, might not work. We're not going to guarantee it. It's and if you have problems, we're just going to say I told you so. The slight problem with all this, I think, my concern about it is, of course, you've still only got. You've only got 30 days to roll back if you don't want it. So, of course, once you've been on this for over a month, you can't go back without nuking your machine. Yeah. So that, I think, is a slight concern here but then again, it's going to only really be the enthusiasts that are going to do this because you have to jump through so many hoops to make it work. And the other, I mean, what's a little bit maddening is all it shows is how artificial the barriers are.
Yeah. And I think as well, if it is a new major build, then you'll be able to get new ISO from the Media Creation tool and do another in-place upgrade. So I don't think you'd ever be left totally orphaned with your machine, but it is on you. It's not up to Microsoft to help you with that.
Exactly. I mean, you might be, you might not be. I mean, it literally is. Buyer beware. If you do this, it could stop working at some point. So, I mean, I must admit, I do have a bunch of old machines here. And I do have one which I've made a sacrificial machine, which I have upgraded, but the rest I'm going to leave on Windows 10 because, it just seems to be unfortunate if I do them and then a month or so goes past, I end up having to nuke them from orbit to get them back to Windows 10, which would be annoying. Yeah,
definitely. So yeah, you can. So you could really more or less get Windows 11 on any machine, even. Yeah. But. Yeah, you're risking. I've had people ask me about it. Should people ask, should I do it? Especially on the YouTube comments from the build videos. Should I upgrade my machine? And it's definitely one I can't answer. Probably, if you have to ask the question, you probably shouldn't.
Exactly. If you're worried about it, don't do it. It's the same reason why. Right? Should I be a Windows Insider? Well, probably not, because at any point your PC could be launched by the Windows Insider program. That's part and parcel of doing it. So. If you don't mind the fact your machine could be launched and you've got to nuke it, you've got to reinstall from scratch, and yeah, sure, go for it, but accept the risk that's involved. And Microsoft, I think, have made very clear what that risk is.
I'm almost surprised by the number of people I see, particularly on the Windows 11 or the Windows Insider Reddits, and some comments I get on YouTube, of people that have gone onto the dev channel and then are now wondering how to get back to release. And you've got to, and you've got to jump through a number of hoops to get to that point where you're on the dev channel. And so people just shows people will click and accept and yes, give me the build, and then worry about the consequences later.
Well, I think it's because people may have got used to that witching hour where you could regress back from dev channel to build. There was that kind of period of time where from fast we can go back, and I think that window closed a lot earlier than it has done in the past. But certainly, if you've gone anywhere near the dev channel, you have to accept that your PC could need to be nuked at any point, regardless of where you want to be. It's just the nature of the beast. It's test software. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. So one thing I am sad about is all that massive list of issues that they fixed on the beta channel is still no fix for the Surface Dial.
Never mind. I'll tell you a secret. They don't care.
Well, I do, because I use this with a video editor, and I can't use it anymore. It still works with everything else, but what I did use it for was the custom tool, and I had it linked up with Camtasia, and it worked great for that. But now it just crashes settings whenever I go into it.
Move on. They have.
So Microsoft abandoning stuff and moving on. I don't think that's the case. There's not a whole lot of stuff over there, is there? So that's all the Windows 11 news. So the other thing that I did see as well regularly is that it looks like Notepad's getting a new version as well, because I think someone accidentally leaked a screenshot of the.
I do hope not. Please don't mess around with Notepad.
It's very minor, I'm afraid. It's just menu options. I think they just use a new WinUI.
Dread phrase dark mode. Oh, God.
Yeah, I think it'll support dark mode as well. But I'll tell you what, it won't be rewritten as a UWP app, will it?
PWA, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe PWA. It's shame Gary's not on tonight. We'll talk about this next week. But I've seen that, the ongoing story of UWP is dead. Well, it's really dead now, isn't it?
Well, it's it's a tricky one, isn't it? It's kind of, it may not be dead, but it doesn't smell too good, that's for sure.
Yeah, because I think they've killed off, or they've issued what they've said is the UWP framework is just going to get maintenance updates now, and they want to migrate over. So that's definitely one for Gary. Although he may well just say, "Well, no one's writing any applications anyway, so it doesn't really matter."
No. I can't think of anyone who's writing an actual, Windows desktop style app anymore. Just that's kind of not been a thing for a while. And to be frank, as a developer, Microsoft have moved those goalposts so many times now that you just think, I just can't be bothered anymore. Let's just go for browser-based tech, because that at least will be around until Google moves the goalpost in Chrome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I did manage to get all my unsupported devices. I managed to get my 950 XL upgraded to the latest build. My Raspberry Pi, I've got. I managed to. I was on a roll last week. Everything upgraded and worked fine. It's amazing how flexible Windows can be if you're okay to tinker around.
Oh yeah, it works fine on my. Well, when I say works fine, it runs on my Pi 400. It's just not the quickest thing. It's more a case of it's because I can rather than because I should.
Yeah, that's why people have asked me about the 950 and say, "Well, how practical is it?" And also, well, it's not practical at all. But that wasn't the point.
Exactly. It's fun to get these things which I think brings on to your Raspberry Pi project with the LEDs, and that's some impressive tinkering there. Yeah.
So a couple of things I've been playing with. I added a temperature sensor to my Raspberry Pi. The one with the LED display I had. So I had an Arduino which has got a temperature sensor, which I wrote for a UWP app that communicates. So the Arduino talked in XML via the serial port to a UWP app on the Raspberry Pi. So I've rewritten that as a Python app on the Raspberry Pi. And so the communication still works the same. So I didn't have to do the Arduino bit, but so I've got that. It's got the temperature on there and humidity and everything else. But for Christmas decoration type project, I've got something else, and I just received this today. So I can show you what I was playing with. So this is what I've ordered. I don't even see it on the screen, but a Plasma 2040 controller.
Oh, right.
And I ordered the appropriate light strip as well. This light strip, which is an 80. I think it's got 98 individual addressable LEDs with RGB. So each one's got 255 bit or 255 brightness levels per RGB. So you've got a huge amount of flexibility with this.
So you can scroll along and sort of kind of Morse code, cry for help.
Yes, you can do anything on this. Yeah. So I quickly fired it up today, so you can make it pulse along. You do the old, I got it to do the old Cylon, the Cylon face thing where the red light goes up, backwards and forwards. But you can address all the.
I think Knight Rider.
Yes, well, yes, no, Cylon. It's definitely Cylon. But yeah, it's a neat little controller. This, and it's amazing that it's a Raspberry Pi, isn't it, essentially? But it's a Raspberry Pi controller.
The 2040, so it's kind of, I mean, you couldn't run a full Linux distro on it, really. But it's massively overpowered basically it's a micro controller, but it's colossally overpowered. It can do so much stuff. It's got, a lot of memory for a micro controller, and of course it's got all those wonderful GPIO ports as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably a bit overkill for, but look at the price. I mean, like 12 quid for it.
Yeah, and the actual individual chip itself, I think that goes for, I don't know, a pound or less now. I mean,
yeah.
I know OEMs can buy them on, in reels of chips and things. But yeah, I think the 2040 is a really interesting thing the Pi team are doing, because it is a move away from the computer on the board to something that's clearly, this is very much an industrial application thing. It is aimed squarely at the microcontroller market. So it just can do a lot more, as you're finding out.
Controlling just the fun that you can have controlling an LED, an infinitely addressable LED light strip. So every single one of those lights is addressable. All 98 of them is addressable with 3 brightness levels on each RGB. So it's got immense possibilities. So, but yeah, it's good. It's also really quite fun to program. It uses MicroPython, isn't it? I think it's called.
Yeah. So are you sort of SSHing? Are you sharing into it to sort of run to get the Python code going on it?
Yeah. So it's plugged. I'm using that. Is it called Thorny? The development. Yeah. So I'm using Thorny. You plug the USB-C into your PC, so into Windows as a version of Thorny, and you use the IDE as if and then you type the IDE and save and run, and it runs on the controller then. And then you could, depending how you name the file, you can make it auto start if you want, or you can, there's lots of different options. The buttons are addressable as well. So you could make it so that it auto loads the program and waits until you press one of the buttons and then executes the thing. What I was just playing about with today was the different swirly patterns and things like that, and just having it on a cycle. Yeah. So.
Well, it's really. I think you can get the board by itself. It's the Pi Pico board, isn't it? I think is a basic board. But yeah, it's really cool. It's just recalling the specs and things. I think the actual 2040 came out start of this year, I think. And it's a dual core ARM Cortex running at 133 megahertz with 256 kilobytes of on-chip RAM, which doesn't sound colossal, but for a micro controller, really is.
Yeah, and the one thing that's quite good on this little board is it's got the little terminal pots on there, so you don't have to solder anything. And I got the little adapter as well, so
nice.
Up and running straight away. And there's a little LED addressable there as well. So yeah, it's amazing what you can do with it, and it's all just powered from a single USB-C. So it's lots of fun to be had with that. So. It's very engaging. It almost takes me back to sort of doing the Spectrum programming, where you type something in, you press run, it does its thing, you see what you've done wrong, you stop it, you fix it, and you have another go. It's that immediate. There's no compiling and project building and everything else. It's very immediate.
Yeah, I mean certainly the Python implementation of Thorny is very straight. It's very straightforward. So I guess that's perhaps the Pi showing its heritage as an education tool, because you can imagine, well, I was looking at the new build hat that came out, with the hardware attached on top, which plugs into the 40-pin GPIA connector, pretty much any Pi. Although I used a Pi 4, and again, using Python going through Thor, you could use that to control, I think, up to 4 Lego Technic LFP2 devices. So that would be like a motors or sensors or things, and just I have to say, really fun.
Yeah, that's so. Have you got one of those connected up?
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunately because it's one. There's the Lego do classroom kits, but they're ferociously expensive, and one of them I think has got a 6-port hub. There's only 4 LFP2, which is kind of the controller interface. There's only 4 on the board, which I think is because they couldn't fit many more on the hat without fouling other components. Was I think the major problem there. But of course, I'm looking at I've got a big old Lego Saturn V transporter, which I'm wondering if I can motorize it, putting 4 motors in each set of tracks. But then the problem I've had there is synchronizing them up. But as you say, it's great fun to sit and play with them. And so, okay, I'm going to rotate them, going to start the motor going 1 degree very carefully, and then 2 to slowly build up the torque and motion. And then you've got color sensors, on the technic sets and distance sensors. It's really good fun. So I think it's almost a golden age, I think, for the tinker, really, because it's all become much more accessible and easy to use.
Yeah, and I think it has, and you're not talking huge amount of money for these things. Even if luxury LEDs are costing like 20 quid, and these little this like the e-ink display I got, is like a tenner, I think, or something like that. So you're not talking huge amount of money, but I think perhaps what's the biggest thing is the resources that are available, because like this MicroPython, I've never used that before, but there's loads of stuff out there. But it doesn't take very much searching around to find some instructions. And
absolutely, I think the community that's built up. I mean, not just the Pi, but let's discuss the Pi in particular. The community that's built up around it is brilliant. I mean, whatever you want to do, there'll be someone out there, at least one person who's either done it or can point you in the right direction. And all the people I've spoken to have been very generous with their time as well. So I think if you're interested in this sort of thing, it's really worthwhile getting involved in the community. I mean, I think you did some meetups and things back in the day.
Yeah, it's great, and there's some really interesting stuff that the community's doing, and it's very hands-on and very and something about you can do all this loads of coding and clever coding, but if you make lights flash, it's much more engaging, or motors turn or something like that.
I really enjoyed making a motor turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, so that was my project. I think it makes a little bit of a Christmas decoration or something like that. But I guess more usefully, perhaps after Christmas, I'll have it as an LED light strip in my office here, and I'll use it for that.
At the risk of a real launching of gears, shall we switch from the wonderful, inexpensive open world of the Pi to an event that happened this week?
Yeah. Now, So this week's show is brought to you by the Notch, but not by the.
Has had his hair cut in the Notch fashion yet?
He's got a Notch tattoo, but he hasn't got a touch bar anymore.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's so this obviously we're talking about Apple's event, which I think was kind of almost the MacBook Pro event, really. I mean, there were a few bits and pieces, other like AirPod stuff and HomePod stuff, but really I think the star of the show was the MacBook Pros, which have had the notch I think is controversial, and I think it's a sign of a lack of imagination at Apple, because the Apple of old I think would have devised a way of doing the camera without requiring a notch, but they've gone all in on the notch. So the top of the MacBook Pro screen, I think it's now got the notch for the webcam, hasn't it? Is that right?
Yeah,
which I think is a real shame. But there we go, and I'm looking forward. I would be interested to hear from Gary what that means for developers, really.
Yeah, because I think what they've the bezel's small. Well, the bezel's gone, isn't it? So the screen is
yeah. Well, the bezel's still there. That's the thing. Yeah, the bezel is still there. It's still got a black rectangle. It's not edge to edge. So I mean, it just seems big and intrusive, and it seems to almost be there as a big middle finger to say, yeah, you hate it on the phone. Well, it's on your screen. It's in your MacBook too, and they kind of give Apple fans one more thing to try and defend the company being wonderful and having a wonderful notch. Just seems like an intrusion on my user interface I don't need, and no other device has it. I mean, I would have hoped they would have come up with some kind of more creative solution than that.
Yeah, I mean, especially as you see it on the Samsung phones. You know, I mean, there's no notch on mine.
I mean, it's even more incongruous if you consider the backtracking they've done with the MacBook Pro. You know, the touch bar's gone. They've backtracked. They've put on our function keys. You've got tons more interfaces now. I think isn't the 16-inch one actually thicker than this predecessor? So they've almost rolled back to say, okay, we're going to put these things back on again. You know, perhaps we didn't know best after all. Yeah,
it's. I think there's HDMI port in there and an SD card and
MagSafe and the MagSafe magnet and it charges back as well.
Yeah, so it's as though that Apple always have the things they kind of know better, and perhaps you could say they've listened to customers and who've been asking for these things back, and they want the proper keys and they want a HDMI port, and so they've listened to them and put them back maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think the process began? I mean, again, I want to be clear. The new MacBook Pro is impressive hardware. It's ferociously expensive, but it's got potential for loads of memory. It's got really fast, massive discs if you want them. A really great screen. It's got all the slots: HDMI, SD card slot, MagSafe. It's got USB-C connectors, loads of stuff. It's a good bit of hardware. But do you reckon it kind of began with the keyboard, where they had to roll back from the keyboard when the keyboard went awfully wrong, and they've since realized that, you know what, maybe Apple doesn't know best after all?
Yeah, maybe. There must be a reason why, and maybe they've seen some of the power users move away to other devices, maybe like Surface Pros or Surface laptops or whatever, and because although they're pretty barren on ports as well, so but maybe for like Dell or whatever, but maybe they're seeing some power users move into other devices because of that. But it does seem to be the opposite way that they're going, because you kind of get the impression that the next iPhone probably won't even have a port on it at all. It'll be wireless charging and no USB at all, or that'll be it. So it is quite surprising that they've gone back the other way.
Well, I can imagine the next iPhone will ditch the port, if not just because there's various regulators that are now forcing Apple to adopt a standard port for charging. So I can imagine they'll say, right, in that case, we'll just go for wireless, and it will go. So it was an interesting event. I mean, the new MacBook Pro that came out, which obviously it's now M1 based. They also unveiled some faster, beefier M1 chips as well. But it looks like a good bit of kit, and I am pleased to see more ports back, and I think there'll be a lot of power users pleased to see the ports back in there, the SD slot back in there. That's why I find the notch so incongruous, because they kind of listen to the users, it seems, and put things back that people wish they hadn't taken away in the first place, and then they've shoved a notch on the screen just because they can. And I mean, the notch on the screen. Again, I'd be interested to hear what Gary makes that from a developer standpoint. But I know I've got some apps on my Mac which won't respond well to that. I'm curious to see how the fact the menu bar appears at the top of things, how that's going to really work if that notch is there.
Yeah, it just seems strange. What do you think of the processor then? Because they made a big thing about that, these new processors.
This is these are the kind of the M1 Pro and the M1 what are they? And the M1 Max. Just more powerful, more transistors. Again, the existing M1 chip is pretty good, to be honest. It just seems Apple again moving on. It's a very definite we are moving on from Intel. That's not coming back. We are going to focus on the M1 now. And again, my experience with an M1 Mac Mini is it's a good bit of kit. Works well. Shame that that Microsoft seems to be so impressed with making Windows and ARM work properly on it, but that's a different conversation. But certainly, I mean, Apple threw out the usual benchmarks, but it's X times faster, it does X times more power, and then the question is, well, X times what? What's your starting point here? So there were a few iffy benchmarks, if I'm honest, but it's undoubtedly, even in my use with, in my experience with the basic M1, it is noticeably, snappier, better than the Intel, the i7 Intel based version, and I think also. Haven't they said under some circumstances that the graphics system will match even the most powerful NVIDIA chips these days, which is quite a claim, really.
Yeah. It you do wonder whether how Microsoft can respond, or do they need to respond to this? Do they need to come up with their own processors, ARM-based processors, or are they happy with Intel taking the lead, as we've seen with the new Surface devices?
I mean, I don't think they need to. I think it's. I mean, with the news, the Surface Pro X, I think the writing was almost on the wall for that when the new Intel devices began to report epic battery life as well, and you thought, okay, so I mean, I'm not sure there's any urgency for Microsoft to actually do anything here. I'm pretty sure that Intel and AMD will come out with their own chips that do impressive things. Just because it's Apple doesn't mean that Apple will be forever ahead in this game. And to be honest, I think, as you know, if you've got a decent laptop with a decent SSD and lots of memory, you'd be hard pushed to really notice much difference.
Yeah. So are you going to be ordering yourself a new MacBook Pro?
No, I would rather buy a new car. because they are. I mean, there's no two ways around it. They are really expensive for what they are. I mean, they're nice bits of kit, and if you're a high end, if you want the very best, they're really good bits of kit. But I have to say, they are ferociously expensive. I mean, it's hard to justify the sheer cost of those items. I mean, we'll see if Apple's resolved the quality and reliability problems they've had with previous generations. But certainly the cost is just, I mean, for me, it rules it out. It really does. Much the same way that the cost of the Duo 2 rules it out. So
Duo 2, well, we might be able to talk about that a bit more next week on the show.
When does yours arrive?
Thursday, hopefully.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited. But it means I can't have a Surface Pro 8 or a Surface Laptop Studio. You can't have everything in life.
Not at all. So, I mean, I'll be interested to see how you get on with the Duo 2. For me, it's it will be the camera performance that does it for me, because I do use the camera a lot on my phone.
Yeah. So do I, and why I've been carrying around if I go out. I usually take the Galaxy with me as well. So I'm carrying two. So hopefully that should be resolved and be down to one.
So this time next week, you'll be a mere 2 days away from it arriving.
When this show goes out, I should be getting it this Thursday. Yeah.
Oh wow! Okay, exciting. That's even more exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So we shall see. So hopefully this Thursday, and I'll be able to report back next week.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to that.
Yeah. Now, have you bought yourself the other latest device from Microsoft, the Essential device from Microsoft?
Well, you know what? I actually tried to, and it was sold out. It's kind of, I think it's kind of a, it's kind of is a metaphor really for the device it's based on, because it was sold out, and then you could buy it, and you could buy it on eBay for 3 times the price. So
so this is the Xbox fridge that's out. Yeah,
it's brilliant. So this is the wasn't it the thing that they did? There was not a user voice thing, but they asked the customers what fun thing they should do, and they basically did a mini fridge, because they did a full size 6-foot Xbox fridge, because people made fun of it, saying it looks like a fridge. So So they did that, and now they've actually put into production the mini fridge, which looks like an Xbox Series X. It's got LEDs and stuff, and a Mac. It can hold 12 cans. It says of your favorite beverage. I'm not quite sure 12 cans. That's a 330 ml can or a 500 ml can. I'll be going with the 500 ml can personally. And it's got a USB port on the front to charge devices, all kinds of exciting stuff. And it was actually relatively good value, I thought, because it was £89, I think, in the UK.
That's not bad, is it?
Yeah, which actually isn't that bad for a mini fridge. You know, it's fine. Although I think it was sold through Game, and it just went. You know, I looked at it, I thought, oh, I might get one just for a laugh, and gone, absolutely gone. So I think it's going to appear. Isn't it December 2021, and then spreading out across the rest of the world in 2022?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's pretty much a metaphor for the device itself. Because my son,
because the Xbox Series X you can't get hold of for love nor money. No. So it just seems to be almost a metaphor. Sold, and then it wasn't the fact it sold out so fast. It was how quickly the scalpers appeared, and that's what really stuck him across. Oh no! Already there's people on eBay selling their pre-orders for ridiculous amounts of money. I think people will pay it. You think, oh, don't encourage them. Yeah, it's a shame. My son's still trying to get hold of it. In fact, I think he's on about, maybe if he can't get one, he'll just get himself a Nintendo Switch. But he still wants one of those. And I haven't persuaded Jack yet to get the Surface Go 3. He's still thinking about that one. So I want him to get one so I can review it. Yeah, the Xbox Series X is it's a great console. I think it's a real shame they can't meet demand. Because they've had a while now, and it seems to. I know we're in the midst of a chip shortage or semiconductor shortage. It seems a shame they've been unable to meet the demand. Both Microsoft and Sony are having issues with getting these boxes into shops for any period of time, which I think is a shame. Although, speaking of the Nintendo Switch, I don't know if you've noticed that the Animal Crossing game, which I think pretty much everyone who had a Switch bought as lockdown began about 18 months ago, that's just about to get its very last set of free downloadable content.
Right.
That's a version 2, I think, which has got all kinds of modifications for this sort of world game. And in case anyone's missed out on the phenomenal Animal Crossing, it's actually quite an old game. This is a Switch version. Of course, you have an island and there's various animals and things, and you just help people, and then you get rewarded in the game. It's quite a pleasant game, actually. And Nintendo have been gradually improving it over the months. And so I think that the last major update is due to happen in November, where they also will do a full-on new version, which you've got to actually pay for. So it's the end of free updates.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
But it's good. It was good. It was a good one while it lasted, I have to say. And it does look amazing, the updates. So I say this because I have a small child in the house who is very, very excited about these updates.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Although Jack didn't buy a Surface Go 3, but he did buy a Lego Ghostbusters Ecto 1 thing that's I can't remember how many pieces he said it had, like 21,000 pieces or something like that. It's a big thing, about that big. It's the biggest thing. But yeah, so he's been building that in stages.
Well, that's a fun thing. That, I believe that's from Lego Ideas, isn't it? And I think the guy that designed that, because he got through Lego Ideas, and I think Lego made a lot of improvements to it to actually make it settable. He and another person has also done a Lego solar system orrery, which is a thing where you have the planets go around in clockwork. So you kind of have a solar system of planets, and that's just gone up on Lego Ideas. And I think that got to its 10,000 votes, which is what you need to get a design through to assessment by Lego in something like a matter of weeks. It's incredibly quick. So yeah. So and I think he also, as the designer of the X1, he also did the Seinfeld set as well.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah. That's brilliant. That.
Yeah, the Lego Ideas program, being a massive Lego fan as I am, it's really interesting to see these designs going through. And also, it's quite sad when some don't make it through. You think, oh, it's a great design there, but it doesn't actually get through. And I think, it's. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that. And well done buying Ecto 1. That's quality Lego there. Brilliant.
Well, he's on holiday this week, and I kind of said to him, what you doing while you're on holiday? Bear in mind, he's 19. And what he described to me was exactly what he would have done on holiday when he was 12, playing on his Xbox and building Lego. So that's great.
Well, you know what? I'm 49. That's my idea of a perfect holiday.
Yeah, I think that's exactly. Chance to be a 5 thing.
Yep. Sounds perfect. He's a good lad. You've put him up well there, Ian.
Yeah. So, well, once I get a Surface Go 3, and then the circle be complete, and I can review it for him.
Yeah, it'll be when he demands the iPhone 13 Pro. You think, no, disowned.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's no iPhone there. I think what he's after is this actually. My Surface Duo.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, there will be a Duo going spare. Fairly soon. So. Yeah,
exactly. So maybe I'll do him a deal with that and a Surface Go 3. Yeah. So well, I think that's just about everything I've got for this week. So hopefully by this time next week we'll have the Duo to play with, and I might have started my LED light strip Christmas decoration program. That's going to be my next challenge.
2 fun things. I like it.
Yes, exactly. Both one you can really they're very different ends of the spectrums, but yeah, there we go. So where can we find you?
You can find me mostly on Twitter at Richard_Speed. Waffling about Lego a lot.
Yes, very good. And you can find me at Ice Dixon. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Hopefully Gary as well. I think he's going to send me an interview as well. So if we've got an interview, I'm going to place that into the show as the next segment, and then we'll see you back next week.
Excellent. Cheerio.
See ya.